Hi everyone, we are preparing for BeMore Unfiltered. So we are still in setup mode. We will be going live here in just a few moments with our panel. So stay tuned and be prepared for some awesome conversation with our male panel.
Welcome, everyone, to our podcast, Baltimore Unfiltered. And it's really great to start this panel discussion conversation with a kickoff with a dear colleague of mine, Dr. David Fakunle, from a professor at Morgan State University and also Johns Hopkins University. So he's going to introduce the subject of Black boys and men in Baltimore and their sexual and mental health. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and Dr. Bakunle more introduce himself more and kick us off the right way for this panel discussion we're going to have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, in the interest of time, I will be brief but hopefully meaningful with my words. So this is a very important subject that crosses many dimensions of public health, which is my background. But more importantly, this is a very necessary story that we should be comfortable telling. We are social beings, which means we need each other. We are connected across many elements. We are creative beings, which means we have ways of expressing ourselves in this thing called life. And yes, we are sexual beings. That's why we all exist. So I understand that as men, we think a lot, but we don't necessarily say a lot. And that can have consequences if we don't express our truths. Much like we encourage everyone to be open and honest and vulnerable when it comes to their mental health, we should ask the same when it comes to sexual health. And the reason being is if we don't know, how can we help? Right? If we don't understand, how can we prepare? If we aren't aware, if we don't acknowledge, how can we be safe? And so we need these spaces of vulnerability, of honesty, of openness, so that we can talk about the touchy subjects. It's good to see Dr. Winbush here because he's very familiar with touchy subjects, focusing on history the way he does, as am I, but with storytelling, with sharing our truth, so we can talk about the difficult stuff in a way that is, again, honest, uncompromising, but also acknowledging of our humanity. And that is what I welcome into this space. That is what I hope for in this space. I look forward to seeing this recording and experiencing this discussion because it is critical, especially for Black boys and especially for Black men, because within that spectrum of masculinity, we are sometimes the quietest, but we also have probably the most to say. So we are not doing ourselves a favor by being quiet, but a lot of times opening up your voice physically and figuratively does come with encouragement. Someone telling you it's okay, right? We won't hurt you. And that part is important. We won't hurt you. Being vulnerable does not have to be taken advantage of. Quite the contrary, it should be nurtured. It should be cared for because then that vulnerability becomes a strength. And so I encourage all of you, but especially our Black boys and our Black men, tell your story. It is worthy. End of sentence, right? Just like no is a sentence, just like yes is a sentence, it is worthy is a sentence. That does not have to be justified anything beyond that. So tell your story, ask the questions, go there, be deep. We know that you are inquisitive, that you are curious, that you are introspective, perhaps even retrospective. All of that is necessary in exploring the depths that is our human experience, and sexual health and mental health are no different. So please have that in mind. Please have that in your hearts. And I welcome you again to this meaningful space of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding can encompass anything, including our bodies and our minds. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take a break to transition to our panel discussion. So I invite you right now to dinner and get your dinner and get situated, and we will start our panel discussion. Thank you so much. Yeah, the sooner you get your food, the sooner we'll sit and get started. Thank you.
Okay, we turned it on.
Low-key,
Okay, turn it over
yeah.
to them. All right, let me see if I can pause this. I was streaming
It's
here.
like another angle. Like people are clapping. I feel like that would get to see.
So you have the
You can turn it on. If you can stay on the entire time, we can go ahead and turn it on.
I gotta go check that.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna,
On both?
no, this is, that's a.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
connected on that, but those like I just.
You have good taste. That's a good kombucha.
Oh, yeah. I just found it on Saturday.
Really? Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay, yeah, I just found it on Saturday.
all right. I'm gonna eat the rest of I mean,
Yes. Yeah, that's perfect. So we go ready now. Oh, yeah. And then Curtis.
How long your mics last?
Huh?
How long did the mics last? How long did it last? Like, how long? I don't want to fuck with you. What you said?
I see what you're saying. I'm a be in it.
I think that would be kind
Hey, you look lovely. Thank you. Joy told me to let you know what happened. So I was supposed to pick him up. My car battery died. Nobody is helping me. Finally, a neighbor stopped and helped me took the battery out of his truck, put it in my car, started my car, and then let me leave. But Troy had to catch an Uber, so he's almost here. So it didn't make sense for me to go all the way to get him.
No problem.
He
The
thought-
thing is, it's coming at the end.
Yeah, he's
And thanks for capturing notes in the past. We'll continue to do that. I'm so glad you're here, Kelsey.
It probably wouldn't be. But
I'm doing it for the restaurant too.
First and foremost, I want to welcome everybody to the T-Knot Wellness Center. So I know you're like, well, what is this normally? So I know you can't tell, but in the back here is a Caribbean cafe. It's kind of locked because we want traffic going back there. But every day but Sundays and Mondays, we're open for business, serving food. It's a Jamaican and American fusion restaurant. We also have therapy upstairs. We have group counseling down here. We have herbs, we have books, and all types of stuff. But I'm gonna let the brother from the health department come up and introduce what he does.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm with the Baltimore City Health Department, our mobile unit. We're out like sometimes 7 days a week, different variety hours. But I just want to let you guys know that today we're outside doing HIV STD screening. We're here free, yeah. We're here from now till whenever the event is over. So it's a white man outside. You'll see the emblem on the side. You're welcome to come out at any time. We normally have like gift cards. We're having gift cards today, but we have like little trinkets. We have condoms. We have T-shirts. We have lube. We have that's about it. Info. We have flyers. Pamphlets, things like that. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you for hearing me out, and have a great evening.
And again, if y'all haven't been tested, this is free testing. No questions asked. Okay, and the brother says syphilis is on the rise, so we want to be aware of what's happening in our city. Thank you. I know how you is to tell you what to do.
Did that help with the light?
Yeah.
We're gonna, We'll invite them, yeah, we'll invite you in a moment.
Ready?
Yeah.
Turn the microphone on here.
We go back here because I think it's cutting off my head.
Shall we go back?
Yeah, it's cutting off my head. There we go. Got the camera angle there.
Recording? Give us 1 second.
Camera.
Recording, okay. Okay.
All right, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I am Delana Watkins, and this is my amazing mentor. She doesn't like to be called that, mentor. Rebecca.
That's an apple.
So we are hosting our monthly podcast, and it's titled BeMore Unfiltered. And let me just tell you, this is our 4th time hosting this. Today, I can honestly say that I myself am looking forward to tonight's conversation, because typically we kind of do this 30,000 foot view of just talking about sexual health, HIV, PEP, and PrEP from a general perspective. But tonight, we're bringing you something that I don't think we have done before, but it's very well needed and necessary. And that is be more about boys and men and sexual health, and what's said, what's unsaid, and what needs to be talked about.
Yes, I am so very excited too, Delina. And my name is Rukat Nafu, and I am the founder and CEO of R&D Associates. And we have the pleasure of being funded by Baltimore City Health Department to provide sexual health training and capacity building throughout Baltimore City. And we have amazing partners in that effort, and we call them ambassadors to promote sexual health in diverse communities in Baltimore. And we are going to be featuring them, these phenomenal men that are doing amazing work. What is exciting is in the past podcast, you mostly heard from us ladies. Last time when we had our panel, it was all ladies. There were men that were asking some fabulous questions, right?
They were the first ones to the mic.
Yes,
so.
absolutely. So that gave us an idea. Why don't we have a podcast that just focuses on men? So we are going to leave this table and invite our men to talk about uncensored, Baltimore Uncensored, about sexual health and relationship. Remember, it's unfiltered. So if you have young people, underage, you feel uncomfortable, when we're going to deep conversation, then you may ask them to excuse themselves from your presence. So we are keeping it real. And so we are absolutely delighted. Besides this panel discussion, we have a live audience and streaming audience. So those of you that are streaming, you can send your questions and we will address them. And we were going to be taking also audience questions today. So we're very excited. In addition, we have HIV and STI testing going on. So a lot is happening throughout this evening.
Simultaneously. So there will be a lot going on. And again, no question is too sensitive for the conversation. That's why we're here. So make sure if you even want to submit anonymously online, you can do that as well. I have the ability to just click the button and say an anonymous question, and your name will not appear, but we can ask the question of our panel. So just keep that in mind as you're listening and participating. Again, as Rebecca stated, we do have a live audience as well. So without further ado.
Yes, well, I think we have some ambassadors that are in the audience. So we want to shout out to ambassadors. I see Sarah from For My Kids. I see Kelly Johnson, Jamal Beauty. I see Sharmi from Taylor from More Than a Shop. And I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody else. Anybody? So without further ado, we're gonna start with our introduction of the man, and I'm just gonna introduce one man, and then he's gonna have the panelists introduce themselves. And as I said, all the panelists are ambassadors, including us are ambassadors.
We get the first shout out. I mean,
Yes. Yes, exactly. So those of you that are watching and are in Baltimore City and you want to join us in our movement, funded by Baltimore City Health Department to promote sexual health, please contact us. All right. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna invite to the table my fabulous colleague, Mark Lavelle, and he is sorry, I apologize. I put Morgan State University. He is actually with Baltimore City Public Schools, and he is my storytelling mentor. He's absolutely fantastic. So I've gone through 2 rounds of storytelling with him. So it's a pleasure to have him here. And we have an amazing announcement related to that because coming up next month is going to be our own ambassadors R&D and shortcut storytelling that we're producing with Mark Lavelle. And Ginny will be showing the flyer for that upcoming storytelling session. And we will be auditioning. So stay tuned with all that information. If you have not been screened for HIV and STI, please do so. We will have surprise giveaways for those that screen us today. That's it today. All right. Thank you. So Mark, let's take our seats, and I invite Mark Lavelle. And remember, you, the audience, streaming and also present here, have opportunities to ask questions. And the process today is Mark will introduce people, the panelists, they will introduce themselves, we'll have that panel discussions, and then we will have question and answer period. And then we will conclude with closing remarks by Mr. Troy Staton, who is director of the More Than a Shop Coalition of Beauty and Beauticians and Barbers. Thank you so much, and Mark.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this evening to be part of such an exciting event and important discussion. I want to echo some of the things that Dr. Kunle mentioned about men. You know, we live in our heads, right? So today is an opportunity for us to come outside of our heads, to have this conversation, to participate and contribute to this discussion. I have a very powerful panel with me this evening that we're gonna, just have a discussion on. Gonna field some questions. They're gonna respond from their seats, their experience with their organizations, etc. And you will also get an opportunity to ask them some questions that may pop up in your head about this important topic. I will be remiss as well if I didn't again push or promote the upcoming collaboration with the Shortcuts show and R&D. We will be doing storytelling project come the end of May. I think we're starting looking at May 31st, somewhere around there. So look out for that opportunity. We're going to be telling stories on an important topic, sex. Yes? So again, without further ado, let me bring the gentlemen to the table. So let's welcome them with a round of applause. So, although these gentlemen are no strangers to folks in the room, we will give them I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves by name and also the organizations that they represent before we get into the questions.
How you doing, everyone? I'm Wesley Hawkins. I'm the executive director and founder of the No Leader Project, which is an organization that provides wraparound services and case manager services to Baltimore City Public School youth. We also work with returning citizens and just providing a holistic approach of how to help the youth and their families and adults reach high levels of success, providing school visits, home visits, tutoring, mentoring, and just a lot of different services that they may need to get help and get to the next level.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jarrell Wilson, Executive Director for My Kids. For My Kids is an initiative that helps families and youth in our city with housing, aftercare, mentorship, therapy, job readiness. We have in-school programs and after-school programs. We also assist with jail reform, which help us get our guys from out of incarceration and get them into the system where we consider thrivability, getting them jobs, having them sustain and carry on with their life before they got incarcerated.
Thank you for that. Brother Curtis, I am the co-founder of the Brothers Helping Brothers initiative that is housed right here in this space. I do wraparound services and men's support group of men of all ages, primarily over 18, supporting them, returning citizens, and just support men on their journey to wellness and good health.
All right, we can clap it up for these gentlemen. Yeah. Again, some powerful gentlemen around the table. Again, my name is Mark LeBeau, the director for the Shortcut Show and moderator for this discussion. So, again, it's a conversation, gentlemen, right? So we're going to be relaxed. So I'm going to be calling you on by first name basis, like we've known each other for years. I hope y'all don't mind that, right? So, brothers, my first question to anyone on the panel would be, how has sexual health of boys and men changed since you were younger? I don't know why they put you first, Curtis.
He said, Brother Curtis, that's because I'm the oldest, right?
So you have further back to go, right? So you want me to ask the question again?
Sure, you can.
Okay. How has sexual health of boys and men changed since you were younger?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm a 70s babies. Any 70 babies in here? Woo-woo. Right? So being born in the 70s, coming out of the 60s and the whole sexual revolution, they were buck wild in the 60s. So by the time my generation came around, instead of providing a whole bunch of information about sexual health and different things like that, we were left to our own devices. So that means we were asking our peer group, asking our homeboys. And a lot of it was misinformation. It was misguided. Because many people that was telling us what to do and what not to do were not really practicing or really engaging in what they were saying. Because your homeboys like Jarrell be like, man, I had all the women. Find out Jarrell's a virgin. And the brother's not saying anything, is the one that's turned up. But he's quiet. So a lot of times when it came to the young men, when I was growing up, we really didn't talk a lot about sex. It's something that was kind of hush-hush. Even pornography, we didn't have a computer with porn on our side carrying around all day. At night, we tried to watch Cinemax, and it was scrambled. Anybody remember that? Trying to watch Cinemax. You might see a boob every once in a while, right? And you were looking, trying to get excited. So I think things has changed because the technology has changed. Because now people have more access, there's more communication. TikTok is educating folks. We didn't have the social media. So a lot of what was happening in my generation was a lot of misinformation, a lot of secrets, a lot of shame around sexuality, especially that taboo, same gender loving men, right? They call them down low now. So a lot of people were stigmatized and marginalized, but now I think that there's a lot more information, and I'm happy to be born in this, or living in this age, to see a lot more education, especially around sexual health. I'm gonna change it to Brother Jarrell.
Thank you. Great job, sir. So You know, I'm a 70s baby also.
Okay.
But what that look like now is times have changed dramatically. Um, our music plays a major role into our kids and the sexual health atmosphere as it pertains to and you know the youth can vouch for this as it pertains to thinking it's okay to have sex and to do things in the nature without using protection. Um, a lot of information. I grew up, you know, my grandmother, my mother, the people around me was educating me. Our youth get educated, but they don't use the education. So for me, the more workshops, the more us knowledge, spreading information. There's a lot of new diseases out there. Some of the kids we did a class they didn't even know. So for me, it's just constant knowledge, constant information. Also, you know, we got to lean more on our individuals that play a major role that kids look up to. They spread the word, and that word really travels very far when it comes to our youth and the culture. So if they saying something about sexuality in a song, that's what they're looking up to. So more important, the information that's being presented by our leaders.
So I'm an 80s baby. I'm gonna start with that. They both said they 70s. I'm an 80s baby. Okay, 80s. So I'm gonna be a little raw. So I'm in the schools with the youth on a daily basis. I have a program that works inside of Baltimore City Public School youth and the schools. Your students aren't being taught about sexual health. They aren't being taught about sex. They learn it from magazines. They learn it from the videos. They learn it from the radio. They learn it from rap songs. They learn it from movies. But it's not being taught in schools. And respectfully, when I say this, what's being taught to them more than sexual health is about being more sexually fluid. So what's different from when I was in school is the spectrum of what you fall under or who you are or what you identify as, that's been more taught to these kids in these schools than being sexually healthy and being sexually safe. So now is a difference in the schools of what you identify as. Who are you? What group do you belong to? And who do you want to be with? So they are balancing that challenge in the schools and the building, but it's not really emphasis on how to be more safe or how to be safer when having sex with men or women. When you are dating the same sex or same gender, or when you're dating different genders, it's not really being taught at a level that the STDs or the HIV and AIDS rates are really high. When you talk to these students and talk to them about that stuff, they almost looking at it like that's still around. It's almost like how people are treating chicken pox. Like people don't get chicken pox no more. No, people still get HIV and AIDS to this day and high levels of STDs. But it's not being spoken on in a way of what's really actually happening out in the community. So, you know, for me to answer that question, when I was in school and when I was younger, it wasn't, the field wasn't as open as it is, if that makes sense, of what do we fall under, what do you belong to, and which gender did you identify as. So I think that's a different category of how when you in the schools, the students are extremely sexual, like extremely sexual. If you work in the high schools, these kids are extremely, extremely sexual. But you might walk down the hallway now and it's like two girls in the corner, and then the other corner is two boys. I didn't really grow up in that generation faced with that. So I think that's one of the largest major differences from when I was in elementary, middle, and high school versus what the high schools are doing now.
Thank you. So, although the question asked about change, in many of the responses, we see that things are still the same, right? There's still a lot of misinformation happening, miseducation around sex and identity, etc. Some of the changes identified by these gentlemen, we talk about access. There's now more access to sexual information. Porn is readily available on at your fingertips, right? And also, Brother Wesley mentioned about gender identity and sexuality choices. So those are some of the changes, but we still have some things that have been happening even from the 90s babies, the 80s babies, and some of us 60s babies, right? So I'll move on to the next question. What are the key challenges men face regarding relationships and sexual health? What are the key challenges men face regarding relationships and sexual health? So I could give it to one because I have a whole lot of questions to get through. So if one of you all take that, that would be cool.
Was we just taking too long? One of the key challenges is communication, honestly.
Yes.
A lot of the young men and adult men don't know how to communicate properly. We hold a lot of our frustration or our ideas in, and then they come out wrong. Also, one of the major challenges, again, because I work with, these young men at a high level, is they don't really, when you talk about sexual health, they're not talking about wearing condoms. They want to go raw. And excuse my French, it's spoken on like that's what the thing is. I'm going to go raw. So you're not being safe and you're not protecting yourself. So we try to teach them and train them how to protect themselves. But if they don't know how to communicate with you or their parents or the schools, then that communication piece is one of the major issues, because how they speak on it in their age group and in their circles is they try to knock the next thing down, just being honest. You're not looking at it and speaking on it like, oh, at that age, I want to marry a young girl, I want to take care of this young girl or woman, or this is who I want to be with, or this is who I want to grow my life with. They talking about, what they going to do and how they going to do it. Regardless on who told it to them or where they learned it from, it's the problem that, did you learn it in a way of how to be safe? Did you learn that skill or that trait in a way of how to actually treat that young lady or treat that woman in a way of how she want to be treated? Did you learn from her? Did she talk to you? Are y'all communicating, or are you just going by your way? So I would say the major problem is communication, because the young men and young ladies, they not talking to each other. They just in a room or in a space like fumbling through it, but they not talking to each other. They're not having these discussions and they're not working through it together. So now you have sometimes people feel uncomfortable. And because I work with these young men and young ladies on a daily basis, you have those stories when the young men or the young ladies will express being in an uncomfortable space because of how the young man has approached her or how a group of young men has approached her. So that's how I'll approach it.
Anything to add, gentlemen?
Repeat the question for me, Mark.
So the question is, what are the key challenges men face regarding relationships and sexual health?
Yeah, let me deal with from the key challenges men face. In traditional cultures, men had to go through a rite of passage, right? So the first rite is being born, then puberty, then marriage, and then death, and then that cycle repeats. So one of the challenges here is that men in this society right now are not really being raised to be husbands, to take on wives. And the economy has shifted. And when the economy shifts and men doesn't have the ability to provide for themselves, it's very difficult to talk about coupling and being in a committed relationship. So the way you express your sexuality is not in the constraints and a container of a husband and wife and in a relationship. we're being conditioned and taught to express our sexuality as individuals and how many notches we can get on our belt. So there's been a shift. So the question is, how do we shift it back as far as traditional values? How do you begin to reparent? Because I work with adult and I spend a lot of time reparenting adult men, right? Teaching them at this waypoint, at this stage in your life, not what Brother Curtis said, what is socially acceptable or what a man is. But one of the things I try to get them to understand is, what principles are you saying that you believe in? And how can we support you in the principles that you say you believe in? So if you say you believe in a healthy relationship, you should be moving in a way, preparing yourself to be a good mate. So in the absence of economic stability, when men are not financially stable and financially capable of providing for themselves, they will never couple in a healthy way. I want y'all to sit on that. I was in Iraq and I seen some very strange things. When you're in a state of war, you're not thinking about marriage. The black man and woman is in a state of war. And we act like it through our ways and our actions. We're not building. The most revolutionary thing that a black man could do in 2025 is marry a black woman. And if you're over the age of 25 and you're not preparing yourself financially to take care of those responsibilities, we'll continue to repeat this cycle of mothers raising sons and sons being angry and sons beating and mistreating women. And the cycle will continue. And sexuality is men trying to find mom between the legs of someone else, trying to find a safe place. Black man, a safe place for you to be whole and be all you can be cannot be you blowing your trauma through another woman's womb. Sit on it. So black male sexual health in 2025 looks like traumatized people, traumatized men, blowing their sexual trauma, blowing all that abandonment issue, blowing up the womb. And instead of making love, we beating it up.
Drop the mic, Kurt.
Yeah, that exactly was a drop mic moment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Curtis, for bringing that. So too, Brother Wesley. Some of the things, again, the key challenges, they talked about principles and values, right? Where is that where sex is concerned? Where is the conversation, the communication? Where's the responsibility from men to men? Men to men. What kind of conversation? How are we passing information on to the upcoming generation? Do we feel any sense of responsibility or accountability in that process? We talk about the absence of the breakdown of culture and traditions in our families. That family unit is gone. The education or miseducation, misinformation, again, a key challenge, and communication and the vicious cycle of single mothers raising sons, trying to be a father to a son. And we know that cannot happen. Yeah, so thank you all for that contribution. The next question I'll ask is, do men take responsibility for protection against unwanted pregnancy and STI risks? And if so, how? Do men take responsibility for protection against unwanted pregnancy and STIs risk? And if so, how?
So it's to each his own. You know, people pick and choose our city, our individuals, our men. You know, we have a strong following with ego. thinking we know, thinking we understand. So what that looks like is, and honestly, we're confused. We don't really know which direction we want to go. At any given time that you have the ability to sleep with a man and sleep with a woman, at the same time, you're really confused, a lot of trauma there. So going back to what Brother Curtis said about, we still at the state of war. We ain't in Iraq, but we still at the state of war.
That's right.
Because the knowledge is not getting transformed or transferred to our individuals where they can be successful. And, our men, we fighting this thing where I don't want nobody to know this, or even I'm gonna be a little secretive about this, or even it's gonna come out that way. And then what happens is, they playing both sides. How can he be a husband? How can he be a leader when he wasn't educated on how to be? So when you get in them situations and then you get them emotions, them feelings come out, and you be like, well, I didn't know that person was messing with that person, messing with that person. Well, he wasn't educated, and he know right from wrong. But is he getting held accountable? Is it knowledge there when it takes place? Do he care because his 5 friends are doing the same thing?
Come on.
So what it looks like is, you surround yourself by the knowledge, you dealing with people that obviously want to see you do better and your environment do better. But more importantly, it's all on you. It's to each his own. You got to be able to structure your mind and understand what's needed and where we need to go. So without men, a lot of ego tripping. Guys do not want to let things out I don't want to let nobody know. Well, they're going to know anyway. So if you can be real with yourself, that helps your social. And then that will then help you to identify how to be real with your individuals around you. And that will kind of make up a little bit of okay, I understand how to move instead of being so, defiant, so sneaky, and just, okay. When it comes out, it comes out. Everybody has a vice they have to control.
So the short answer is no. We are not taking responsibility to protect against unwanted pregnancy and STIs. Brother Jarrell gave some explanation as to why. Again, because of ego, because we're misinformed, because we want to be on the in crowd, to do the in thing that everybody else is doing, because of your hormones acting up, raging, because you're misguided by that same adult that you're looking up to who's doing the same foolishness, and not giving you the information or guidance that you need to have, right? But we need to stop the excuses, and pointing the finger, because 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Next question. What are the youth in your program struggling with regarding relationships and sexual health?
Good question. So we have these discussions and conversations within my group all the time. A lot of what's going on is in our community and in our culture, we have made the wrong things cool.
Come on.
We have made negativity cool. We have made doing the wrong thing be the positive thing, or the upstanding person be considered the nerd, the geek, the clown, the person that people laugh and joke on. And I'll give an example. If a young man at school is saying he's still a virgin, they laughing, they joking him, they putting him down. But if a young man said he in the 10th grade and he done already had 15, 10 or 5 or 7 sexual partners, he's getting praised. We are making the wrong things cool, and we are making things that's not supposed to be celebrated. So now when you are in front of these young men and young girls, when they looking at TV, when they looking at magazines, when they looking at social media, I teach and tell my students all the time, something that we fighting against, honestly, is social media. Something that we're fighting against is what's going on in our culture. So if you got a group of young girls and they looking at a lot of women online, and these women, before they even show their face, they turn around backwards to show their behind before they show their face. So now a lot of young girls in the program, before they even take that picture, they not facing forward. She turned around to show off her behind before you even see the beautiful face that she has. So now this young girl, all of her pictures or photos, she's in high school, she's halfway naked, she's doing these raunchy dances, she's a part of certain things, and it's not okay, but we've made it okay. And then in the schools, the young men are not respecting the young girls because one, they're not being taught to respect the young girls. The music they listen to all day long, from the time that they wake up to the time that they go to sleep, is telling them how to degrade women. Literally, it's telling them how to degrade women, how to devalue women. And working in the schools and being in front of these young men and young girls all the time, it's basically them following each other because they don't have, even if you come from a two-parent household, you in the school or in the community a lot of the times more hours than you may be with your parents, even if you have two parents in the home. So when you go outside and you have a culture that's pushing this narrative of we treat women a certain way of let's just get in the bed with them as fast as we can, and then the young girls are saying, well, I want the money. Give me the money. Show me the money. I want the guys with the cars, the jewelry, the this and that. And my point is, what's happening with these young men and young girls is, one, they're not being taught, like Curtis said, how to be able to be a husband or wife or father and things like that. It's not being taught at a level that is being consistent throughout our community. I'm not going to sit up here on a panel and say there aren't positive, strong black men in the households or in the community. Because if I said that, that would be wrong. I know a lot of positive, strong black men that's taking care of their children. But what I will say is, within the work that I do, a lot of these young men and young girls, when I'm taking them home or I'm dealing with these parents, they live with their mother. They live with their grandmother. They live with their sisters. It's rare that I meet a father. It's rare that I meet a grandfather or uncle, which means there's an element that they are missing that's a part of the essential ingredients that they need as young men and young girls for that man to be present in that child's life. So those are key things that I'll personally highlight from working with young youth in the schools and in the community daily. They don't have the right guidance and leadership, and then the information that is being poured to them is coming from a negative space.
So the struggle is real. It's real, and I think there's a kind of an accountability piece and a call to action. I know will take place here this evening for everyone in this audience to think about the things that are being said today and walk away from this conversation with a responsibility to act, to do something about some of the things that you're hearing today. Some of the things are bigger than us, yeah. Systematically, black men are kind of kept out of the picture. We won't get into that conversation right now, but that is part of the story, yeah. And then to reiterate some of the things that Brother Wesley just said, we normalize abnormal behavior. Normalize abnormal behavior. Abnormal is the new normal. Yeah? That's what is accepted in the society right now. And we have to change that narrative. We have to really work hard to regain normalcy. Yeah? Next question. Are boys and men in your network, your communities, etc., concerned about HIV and AIDS? Why or why not?
Okay, this is easy. No. And the reason why I say no, too many brothers are telling me in my men's groups that they shooting up the club. Anybody know what shooting up the club means? Everybody, thank you, Brother Montu said everybody knows what shooting up the club is.
For those of us who don't know, please explain.
So
we keeping it real, remember?
We gonna keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep it real, brother Curry.
All right, so let me keep it real. I'm a returning citizen. I was in the penitentiary for 7 years, right? When I would sit and do groups in prison behind the wall with men who hustled, who sold drugs, they would tell me they was having sex raw with the women that they were selling drugs to. When I ride in Park Heights and I'm on Garrison Boulevard and I see women with no teeth and our women in the struggle, they look like they're in a struggle. Right? No disrespect for our sex workers.
Yeah.
But women out there that look like they're on their last leg, if you stand there for a while and you sit there, they jumping in and out of cars.
Husbands.
And they're asking men, do you want to go raw? And our men in Baltimore City are saying yes. And then they're going back home to their wives. And wives are saying yes. So when we think about this conversation that in 2025, right here in Baltimore City, we have a lack of information because young men are telling me, and not so old men are telling me that it's very hard to get HIV from a woman. And we have the health department, we have some educated people. Yes, it's more difficult, but yes, you can get HIV from a woman. So this is the misinformation that's out there on the streets. Men are so fascinated and excited from the sensation of that release. Some of them making conscious decisions not to protect themselves when they're engaged in sex. And this is an old conversation, and I'm going to take it back. I remember the book On the Down Low. This is what sparked the whole conversation of black male sexual health. Well, I was at Bowie State University, and the brother that wrote it came to school, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to debate him. But when I went there, his message was a lot different than what I was expecting. He was saying for black men, if you're in a fraternity, if they throwing up the black power fist, no matter how black they was, when he was out there in the streets on the down low in Prince George's County, in DC, in Atlanta, he was screwing all those black men that was throwing up the black power fist saying, Assalamu alaikum, Ungawa black power. Those were the primary men that were on the down low. And he said he wasn't making love. They were meeting in public places, in the restroom, like at Mondawmin Mall. And they were just getting their man off. And sometimes it was not with protection. Jarrell said a lot of times it wasn't with protection. So I want y'all to be clear. The stigma, the education has not stopped the age rate, have not stopped men from engaging in unprotected sex. So the education for us, and the reason why we have to have forums like this, we want to educate our people to wrap it up. One of the things he said that a lot of these men that he was engaging in same sex or same gender loving with were married. His message was to the women. He said, if you're married to a black man in a major city, I don't care if he's college educated with a PhD or he got a GED, that if you're a girlfriend or a wife, you should probably wear protection with your man. It hurt me as a black man to hear another black man saying not only is he sleeping with men, and there are hundreds and thousands of black men sleeping with each other, but because of the stigma, they can't tell their wives that, hey, I'm bisexual, that I'm gay. Because of the stigma. because black women don't seem to like black men as bisexual. I'm not putting a judgment, but what you do when you don't accept it, you drive them into a shadow, you drive them underground, you drive them to muting themselves when they really should be speaking about what their sexual preference is. It is a deeper conversation. I would love for us to get to the point where men that are engaged in same gender loving can speak up and say, you know what? I have this urge, I have this desire. Please, wife, protect yourself from me.
Be open about that, because you put your wife in a challenging position, not being open enough and honest enough.
Mark, halfway through, can we just pause for Q&A?
Yeah, we will. Jarrell, I'm watching the time. I mean, brother Jarrell, I'm watching the time. So, I mean, again, this is some really healthy, deep conversation that we're having here today. And I have some other great questions that I want to get through, but I'm also being very mindful of the time. You talk about the download situation. You were saying, you answered the question outright. No, we are not concerned about HIV and AIDS, right? I have a question, not a question, I'll put this to the audience. We just experienced unprecedented situation globally called COVID, right? How long ago we kind of say we got out of that? About 2 years? 2 years? Is COVID gone? No. But is anybody in this room wearing a mask?
No.
Do you remember what we had to do during COVID? Wear a mask, right? Everybody was wearing masks. Everybody. Campaign told you, wear a mask. Everybody was wearing a mask. Look at us now. Nobody's wearing a mask. The same thing for HIV and AIDS. Do y'all remember the campaign? Yeah? In the 80s, they were scaring us to death. Late 80s, the 90s, about use of condoms, etc., and why you should be using a condom and protection and so forth, right? But it's gone. Out of sight, out of mind. It's still there. HIV and AIDS is still a thing, right? So too is COVID. Yeah? So it's a mindset. Our own mindset that we have to battle against, right? I want to ask one more question before I bring Rebecca back to do the open mic Q&A, because you will get an opportunity to ask the panel some questions. And I think this question is really important, so are the rest, but this one question. How has media, particularly social media, impacted relationships and sexual health in youth? We kind of touched on it, but I really want us to go a little deeper in responding to that question. How has media, in particularly social media, impacted relationships and sexual health in youth?
So let's be frank. We know social media is not good for our youth when it comes to anything that's dealing with sexuality. First and foremost, you can just log on and see anything that comes on any given time, which is just unacceptable. Our kids gotta have a phone. You know, kids gotta have a phone. Get back and forth to school. They gotta get from practices. So they have access to be able to see any and everything at any time. We all know that the things that's on social media is really like bad. And we just gonna get strictly to the, you know, to the meat and the potatoes. You know, Baltimore City has the highest STD rate in the country. Did anybody even know that? And this is just 6 years ago. Y'all get what I'm saying? To attest what you were saying on Garrison, they was doing that when I was a kid.
That's right.
When I was 14 years old, them ladies was still out there, Liberty Heights and Garrison. And y'all know if you're from Baltimore. And it was crazy because the narrative never changed. Never changed. It's still happening. You know, and it's crazy. We got 7,000 chlamydia cases, 4,000 gonorrhea cases, 210 syphilis cases. And we are ranked at number 1. So when we talk about the education, yeah, we know the willing to want to do is the issue. I really needed to highlight that because you know, sometimes it's an eye opener. You know, people talk, but when they start talking about numbers is everything, right, y'all? Numbers.
Yeah.
These numbers indicate that we are at a state of war still.
State of war. Thank you, bro.
Appreciate, you sharing those raw numbers, Darrell, because a lot of the times that brings things to the forefront of what's actually going on. For us to be that high ranking out of the states and cities, we got to understand Baltimore used to have a population of 1 million people.
Come on.
Yeah.
We under 600,000 now. So if we basically half, less than half or half, whatever that mathematically what did that break down to? If we under 600,000 of the population, and this city should have at least 1 million, and we still between number 1 to number 5, that's not good. So it's a part of not only one being educated, because sometimes this is just my personal opinion. Sometimes we're not educated as an excuse. And what I mean by that is, it's people out here trying to educate us. It's programs out here. It's people going to the schools. It's people going to the blocks. I can name a ton of programs within here alone. I know a ton of programs that's on the ground. We on the ground. It's the mindset, y'all, and it's the culture that we fight against in our own communities. If we're going to be real with each other and keep it 100, it's the culture that we are fighting with in our communities. It's not always that it's no information being pushed. It's not always that it's no resources. A lot of the times those factors are true, but we are pushing against an uphill battle where the things that happen to us systematically, we started to accept it and we normalized it and we made it cool. So now when you normalize and make things cool that's not cool, you have children growing up normalizing those behaviors. We'll be at the school, and this is not to disrespect or judge anyone, but we'll be at the school and you'll have a mother dropping her children off at the school with the most skimpiest outfits. But the parents don't understand. Now we got staff at the school that got to monitor that, because what's happening is now these other 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old young men, yo, you seen Lil Bill mother? Lil Bill mother fat as shit. Now, Lil Bill gotta defend not only himself, but his mother. But his mother came up to the school with almost all her assets out in front of the kids.
Come on.
And then now, when you talk on social media, family, you can go on social media and find some of these kids' mothers, they getting bullied in schools from that. And that's a part of the conversation that we don't discuss. How is that affecting your son or daughter when they go to school, that another 16, 17, 15, 13-year-old can pull their mother up online, and that child's mother is just got everything bust out, but he got to go to school or she got to go to school, and other kids are bullying them. And I feel like nobody's talking about that, and people not discussing the effect that it's having on these kids when the child got to go to elementary, middle, and high school, and he entered the classroom and they cracking on everybody and they pull his mother up. And I'm giving y'all facts.
Come on.
I ain't making this up. We got to deal with this. And it's people from my team and right now that we in the building all day. We got to deal with this de-escalation piece and de-escalating young men and young girls from getting in fights and stuff. And to be honest, a lot of the times, to be truthful with y'all, it's from things that then came from the house, y'all, from the mother or father, that now the kids are faced with dealing with it. So, just to answer that question, I think a lot of it is, yes, we need more information. Yes, we need more resources. But as people and as a community, we need more accountability. And we need to hold each other to a higher standard, to be honest with y'all. Like, we really need more accountability and hold ourselves to a higher standard if we're going to talk about bringing change to our community and our people.
We are unpeeling the layers of this onion. Yeah. It's getting really heavy. You talk again about normalizing abnormal behavior and making that abnormal be part of the culture, the in thing. You know, I'm going out on a limb here with this one. The fad about wearing your pants below your butt, yeah, is now an in thing. I saw a young man with about 2 or 3 children a couple of days ago, and his pants was down below his butt, but he's a dad, right? He's a dad, and he's doing his dad thing, yeah? More props to him for that. But part of the culture, part of what is normal to him, is his pants is below his butt. And that's the in thing. That's normalized in our community. We are normalizing abnormal behaviors, right? You talk about a mindset, a paradigm. It's a shift we have to make, yeah? So I want to bring Rebecca back to do the Q&A, or you want, if it's up to you, to invite some questions from the audience. Questions I'm sure many of you may have, and even some golden thoughts that you may want to share with us as well, based on the information that you heard this evening. Yeah? So I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca.
Before we start with Q&A, let's hear it for the. We thank you, and we open it up for Q&A. So we are also going to check questions that have come in from our streaming audience. So Delina will share those questions. So please, questions and comments. We want to get to the answers about what are promising strategies. What should we be doing more of with you all and with the team here to get people to be serious about their sexual health, and how can we better promote healthy relationships? So let's focus on the positive and the answers to some of the problems and the challenges that we have heard. So yes, we welcome your questions, and we welcome your suggestions of promising strategies to address the challenges that have been shared. Okay, so with that, I open up the floor. Okay, Dr. Wimbush from Morgan State, who was quick to raise his hand. So, Dr. Wimbush from Morgan State here.
You know, I wanted to respond to the last issue about media. I think in this discussion that we have to talk about who is the real enemy. And for me, and I hope for most of us, it's the system of white supremacy. And I want to give a tangible example. How many of you have heard of Sexy Red? Okay. Sexy Red has a new lip gloss line. Some of you know what it is. These are the names of the.
Right.
I'm gonna read them.
Yeah, he right.
Some of y'all may need to close your eyes. Coochie Juice, Booty Hole Brown, Nut, just Nut, Pussy Hole Pink, Yellow Discharge. I'm just reading it. Gonorrhea, Blue Balls, and Sex on My Period. Now, none of us have the capability. We're not Mark Zuckerberg, the guy that owns Facebook and all of that. White people want us to fight among each other, especially they want black men to fight with black women and vice versa. And this is something that's 400 years old. It's not just happened with the advent of social media. White people want us to not talk about the origins of how they have hurt us throughout history. And so I want Black men and Black women in discussions of sexuality, mental health, Black men, Black women, to say that who our true enemy is how this system has made us do things that we historically did not do. And since we mentioned in generations, I'm from the 40s generation.
Ooh, yeah,
okay, so I done seen all of them. That's all I do.
Come on, give it up for that Black man.
Dr. Winbush is part of our ambassadors to promote sexual health partners funded by Baltimore City Health Department. Thank you, Dr. Winbush. Other comments, questions? Yes, please.
My name Ron, and for a long time, I never thought this existed. I didn't, and where I grew up in Baltimore, it seemed like we had to be forced to get into groups and stuff like this. You know what I mean? And when people like you all share, in my mind, I don't find it to be true at certain times in my life. And I know I'm a brother, a cousin, an uncle. I've been a husband before. I call myself a king. I don't know how to be either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And I told a good guy that I met. It's my second time today. I said, hey, that I recall, I believe I said I don't know how to handle certain things, especially like the way I think, I overthink. I had big emotional problems, and I feel like I don't know how to handle. And I wish I can give my pain to someone else. And I catch myself isolating a lot because I deal with so much. So I tell guys that I group with that, I leave it in my room. So I come out, it's like I'm escaping it. Mm-hmm. So I try to put smiles on other people's faces. And when I don't get it, I smile. Mm-hmm. And long story short, I wish I was more connected to people that was that can see my worth. I need to know it myself. I don't know nothing about love, care, miss, and so much more for myself. And I thought I'm out here doing the right thing. And I tell myself if I'm right or wrong, I don't know a damn thing. Mm-hmm. So the abnormal.
Yes, sir.
Crazy to say, I enjoy doing good and bad. I do. Protection. I test myself, like, I take chances and stuff like that. And
okay, hold on. What that mean? You gotta break that down, brother.
Meaning, like,
you using protection?
I don't.
Say less. I feel you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And I always told myself that I need to stop when it comes to pause when it comes to women, because I know I'm weak in that area. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And when it comes to men, after my father passed, I didn't trust men for nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't. Oh, not leave this out. I definitely don't trust my damn self. Mm. I don't. To this day, I still don't. I still try to money. I hate that I gotta fight so hard to get to money. I hate that I gotta put in so much work to change. I hate that I'm still in Baltimore and I hate this place. Mm-hmm. So I tell men in in the group that I'm in, that it's unsafe for you to be with me in Baltimore City.
Right. I get you. Let me pause you right there.
So,
first and foremost,
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing your brother. Thank you. And thank you for being transparent.
Our next speaker is actually going to be speaking on mental health, and he's also from Baltimore. And Kevin Shirt, you may have heard of him. He goes last week to have a Smiley show. He's making his round all over. And he's on his fourth book. His fourth book focuses on that, and we will share that with you. So please stay on for mental health and our men.
Rep, can I make a quick comment to that? Yes. thank you for being vulnerable, Black. It's hard for Black men to stand up and have as much courage as you do, right? And I don't know what program brought you here today, but every Thursdays, my men's group is upstairs. That's for any man that's 18 or older. Because we address and we build a community about brothers just like you in your situation, vulnerable. And these brothers right here, we got you. These are some of my accountability partners. And for y'all that don't know, we're all John Hopkins Bunting Fellows, right? And I think that's a big thing. We went through a 10 month leadership training at John Hopkins University. He's in a cohort before me. Wes is in the same cohort as I was in last year. And what does it do? It helps build capacity. But it also helps you find your tribe and find your network. So instead of isolating when you're in distress, you have brothers like Jarrell and brothers like Wes and brothers like myself, Brother Curtis, that you can get on the phone. We don't just do it for 9 to 5. These brothers do it 24 hours a day. I see them in the street. I'm in the trenches with them. These brothers are out there. Whether it's East Baltimore or West Baltimore, they the plugs. We got this thing covered. So any of you, pull one of us up after the meeting. Learn about the resources that we have access to. We live this. This is our passion. And you are our why.
Thank you. And that is why we call our partnership ambassadors, because they are truly ambassadors that care about people here and want to connect with you all, not only in terms about sexual health, but everything related to sexual health, and mental health is one of them, is social emotional. And I want to know why you would not want to protect yourself or use condom, because you did not say, but that is valuable information, because that is also what we're trying to address. What is the resistance from wearing condom and protecting oneself? Okay. So please share, and we will share information about the helpful resources that we have for PrEP, which is medicine you can take every day to protect yourself from HIV infection. Very highly effective. Okay, it's in medicine form, in pill form, but also in injectables. Okay, so we'll provide resources. We have testing here, and please visit clinics, Baltimore City Health clinics that are available. We'll pull out information, all the resources that are available of no cost to you. All right, so we want to get information out to you. Kevin wants to say something in response to your comment.
Oh no, I was just gonna say to the brother, you winning, man. The fact that you spoke up in front of 50, like get this man a hand. And that's the part of the problem, because brothers are afraid to speak up because they're concerned about the people around them. What is somebody gonna say? Right? And then they put you in a tough situation, because now you feel like if somebody says something crazy, now you feel like you gotta defend yourself, right? The stigma associated with those type of conversations, we gotta get past that, because that's the only way we're gonna get better, right? It's gonna start with us. It's gonna start with a brother like that has the courage to grab a microphone and say, I ain't feeling so great today, right? That's huge. So congratulations, man.
Thank you. It's not easy to be vulnerable, and we appreciate you both for opening that way. Yes.
I'm gonna stand right here. How y'all doing?
Hi.
My name is Nancy. I'm a youth ambassador.
Come on.
FMK. Yeah. So I work in a high school as well. I'm a mentor for 9th and 11th graders. What I think the problem is, a lot of parents and just overall leaders in the community don't teach kids how to be themselves. That's a big thing. I see a lot of kids, and just in my group or just around the school, saying like they so hidden with who they really are because they feel like they gonna get teased, or they feel like people want to talk about them, not want to be their friend. But it's so much beauty in being yourself that they don't realize that's how you succeed in life, by being yourself. That's how you meet and build the relationship that you build by being yourself. I became part of FMK by being myself. I feel like if anything y'all take home today, teach y'all young ones, or just practice with yourself, being yourself. It's okay to be a follower sometimes, but you gotta have a great leader to follow.
Come on.
Ooh, so I'm gonna
that's
just say
right.
that. I'm gonna be that
Thank you so much. And from one of our ambassadors from For My Kids,
Yes.
and sexual health. Thank you. Thank you for speaking up. All
So,
right.
Rebecca, I just wanted to add again to this conversation. So, part of the work that I have done, I've done like about 15 plus years in domestic violence intervention and prevention work, right? And one of the things that was developed out of that work is a concept that I have coined as the triple A concept. Not the triple A for the car thing, right? Or the age or whatever, but it's a triple A in terms of life, right? The first A is awareness, right? First, we have to become aware of whatever it is. Whatever the issue is, we have to become aware. We have to become aware of who the enemy is. We have to become aware of how we are existing in this space with this issue, right? In this system. Yeah? We have to become aware of how we are perpetuating mentalities and behaviors that are abnormal and making it normal, right? The second A, after you become aware, you have to take accountability, right? You have to take accountability for that thing that you are now aware of. Just like the young man just shared, right? He was vulnerable enough to say of the things he's aware that he isn't meeting. He calls himself a king, father, a cousin, but he isn't yet there, right? Take accountability for that. And the last one, I hear you whispering it all the time. Action. Yeah? The third A is the action, because you could become aware, you could become accountable, but the hardest piece is the action, right? What you need to do to correct, right? That behavior. And sometimes you may not even need to correct. You may need to sustain something that you're doing well. Yeah? So if you don't remember anything today, just remember those 3 A's, right? Put that into practice in your own life. Start with you first. Don't put the S on your chest yet to go and save the world. Start with yourself. That S on your chest is self. And then let that go to the next person, and the next person, and the next person. Right? So again, let's give it up for this great panel that we have here today. And I'll leave the closing remarks to Rebecca and company. Thank you all.
Thank you, our wonderful ambassadors and ambassadors also sitting here, and for the awesome work we all are doing together. And anybody here, as I said, that want to be part of our movement to promote sexual health, please connect with us or connect with any one of them, because we're all connected. We meet every single month in different locations. We met here twice. And then if you have suggestions for our next month's podcast, please do not hesitate to let us know, because we are here in the business of addressing your needs and your interest, and a way to break down stereotypes that divides us, and stigma that divides us, the stigma that gets in the way of knowledge and spreading the word, as they've all discussed. We want to focus on solutions, and we cannot do it alone. With your partnership, we are quite confident we will go a long way. So thank you so much, to all of our brothers that are sitting here. And we will call on our next brother, Kevin Shirt. And we have his books too, so you're gonna get autographed copies of his book. And thank you all. And this is his fourth book. So Kevin, I invite you out here to address issues around mental health. And please do not leave without completing online evaluation. And then we are gonna, which is right there on the screen, but there are also hard copies, but online evaluation of the using the QR code. It's very important that we get that. And we also we'll pull out information resources if we did not get it before around HIV/AIDS information resources. Thank you so much. So for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about Kevin's book and Kevin's journey. This is his fourth book, and I've read some of his book, and I'm eager to get hold of his new book now that is here to talk. It is called A Life for a Life. Okay, so this is what you are getting. It's quite a popular book. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? You're from here, from West Baltimore, and tell us a little bit about your journey. So if we can pause for a moment, folks, and we're gonna hear from Kevin.
So I was born and raised here in Baltimore. And because we only have a little bit of time, but I'm gonna just cut to the chase real quick. So born and raised here in Baltimore. This book talks a lot about the past, but it also talks a lot about the future and the present. My first time being shot at, I was 16 years old. And there's a lot of people in this room that can relate to this. And if you can't relate to it directly, I'm quite sure growing up in the city, you can relate to it indirectly. But my first time being shot at, I was 16 years old. My second time being shot at, I was probably 18 years old. My third time being shot at, I was 19 years old. I probably got my first shootout, I was 22 years old. I witnessed my first murder when I was 16 years old. I witnessed my second murder when I was 20 years old. I'm not saying these things to brag about it, because there's nothing cool about that, right? I'm trying to paint a picture for you that years later, when you experience that kind of trauma, or any kind of trauma for that matter, it don't just go away. It don't just disappear overnight, right? And as a community, we have a way to just trying to get past our pain, like the brother we talked about earlier, trying to push past our pain. But the reality is, you don't know when that pain is going to reemerge 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later. That's actually called unresolved trauma. And unresolved trauma is the thing when you don't address some of these things that you may have encountered over your life. You'll go through. You potentially could go through life wondering why you can't have good relationships with women, wondering why you can't have good friendships with men, wondering why you can't keep a job, wondering why you keep making poor choices and bad decisions that keep you going in and out of prison. Like I did. I spent almost 12 years in prison for making poor choices. Because the reality is, a lot of the stuff that I was involved in, I could have chose something different, right? But I chose the mayhem. I chose the dysfunction, right? Because the dysfunction and the mayhem, it felt more comfortable to me, right? Because I was living with unresolved trauma. And so that's the gist of what this book talks about. It actually talks about my first journey into therapy when over 10 years ago. and the therapist telling me that I had something called post-traumatic stress disorder. Around the time that I began to write about that, it was being used to describe soldiers that were coming home from Afghanistan and Iraq. It wasn't used to describe young kids in West Baltimore that had witnessed the shooting. It wasn't used to describe a young kid in East Baltimore that may have been shot. But it was used to describe soldiers returning home from Afghanistan and Iraq that had been in war zones. And the reality is, to some degree, we've been living in a war zone. Because I'm quite sure everybody in this room knows a person or knows of a person who has been shot or killed or shot at in this city. It's an issue that has gone on for many years. So in over 10 years ago or more, I decided to get into therapy. I was actually writing my first book in 2010 or 2009. And while I was writing my first book, I was actually writing about a shootout that I had been involved in. And it was something that these things, you kind of push them out of your mind because it's stuff you don't want to remember. You don't want to remember some of the most terrible things that have occurred in your life. So you try to push them out of the way. That's normal human behavior. But while I was writing my first book, I was writing about a situation that occurred where I was in a shootout in broad daylight that I blocked out of my head for 15 years. And what I saw when those memories reemerged, all I remembered was seeing backpacks of kids running away, right? And so I got into a shootout in broad daylight with kids coming home from school were in the middle of the street. And tears began to flow down my eyes while I was writing about the story that I hadn't even thought about for years. And I went and told a friend of mine about it. And she said, you might be dealing with something. She's in the mental health space. She said, you might be dealing with something called PTSD. And I was like, what is PTSD? Am I going crazy? She said, nah, you ain't going crazy. But you probably should see a therapist about it. Around the same time, a guy that I was in federal prison with, my former cellmate, while I was writing this book, I decided to look him up to see how he was doing because I knew he had been released from prison a few years before I had. And I just wanted to check him out and see how he was doing. I think a lot of guys in this room that can relate to that who've been in prison before. You want to see your fellow guys doing well. You want to see that they're doing okay. And so for me, it was just one of those situations. I just wanted to see how he was doing. And when I Googled him, I was just Googling him to try to get an address, to try to get a phone number. And in that process, I came across an article that read that he had committed a double murder in Delaware. So when he was released from prison, a few years before I had been released from prison, I just assumed he was doing okay. But the reality was he had killed 2 people in Delaware just 2 years prior to that. And for me, I needed to understand why. Because when this guy was my cellmate in federal prison in Allenwood, he didn't come across as the guy that would kill 2 people. And I got sucked into this whole situation in the sense that I had to understand what made him do something like this. And so for years I couldn't reach him, but what I could reach was access to articles, access to his court documents, watching his journey as he went to court, because at the time he was looking at the death penalty for 2 murders. And because he was looking at the death penalty, the judge ordered a mental health evaluation and assessment. And through the mental health evaluation and assessment, I learned that he had a crack addicted mother in East Baltimore. He had a heroin addicted father in West Baltimore. His father was also HIV positive. He became an alcoholic at 19 years old. And so when I learned this background about this guy that was actually my former cellmate, I started to better understand who he was. And even in his mental health evaluation and assessment, it showed that he was having a terrible time coping with returning from prison back into the community. Never sought out the resources that he needed. And now he's serving life plus 35 years in prison for double murder, dying of multiple myeloma and cancer, right? So it's a good possibility that he'll never see the streets again. It's a good possibility he'll die in prison because of with cancer. Me seeing this in real time and knowing what I just dealt with myself and trying to recover, because it's a constant recovery, right? That's why I praise the brother for speaking out, because that's where it starts. It starts with you raising your hand and saying, I need to talk to somebody, because people can't read your mind, right? And so watching my former cellmate that I talk to every week for the last several years, just watching him deteriorate in prison, knowing that he had a second chance, because mind you, we were in the mountains of Pennsylvania together. He got released, I got released. So we both had an opportunity, right? But just knowing he had an opportunity, he got out and he committed a double murder, and now he probably will die in prison. And me knowing this guy, not a guy that I'm reading about in the newspaper, not somebody an article or story I'm seeing on the news, but a guy that I knew well, it was impactful. And I felt like I needed to write this book, and I needed to dive into this conversation about mental health in the Black community, because we're losing so many of our people, and we don't have to. I think I heard somebody say earlier about normalizing things, right? We need to normalize conversations in our community about mental health. We need to normalize conversations in our community about trauma, unresolved trauma, and PTSD. Because there's a bunch of people in this room, including me, that have been through hell and back. I already know. I don't need you to raise no hands. I already know. There's a bunch of people in this room that been through hell and back, and I'm one of them. So I know what you feel. I still feel it. I still don't like the sound of fireworks at cookouts and 4th of July. Can't stand the sound, right? We have to normalize the conversation around mental health, because that's the only way we're going to be able to get through that. I've been out of prison now for 19 years, and I can honestly say that without therapy, I probably would have been going back and making poor choices, right? Because I still would have had the same people around me, right? Was a bad influence, right? And it continued to just perpetuate the same poor choices and poor behavior over and over and over again. It's crazy that I'm even sitting up here talking about I've been through therapy, because at one time it was something I just didn't believe in, right? I thought that was the other folks' problem, not us, because we can get through anything because we tough, right? But the reality is it just don't work that way. And you got a bunch of people self-medicating, right? Happy hour ain't the answer to your mental health problem.
Say that
Dispensary ain't the answer to your mental health problem, right? The answer to your mental health problems is sitting down with a professional and having a conversation. The other answer is us embracing us and not being afraid to have a conversation, or not wanting to knock one of our fellow brothers and sisters because they raised their hand and say, you know what, I'm struggling today. And I'll end it with this. When you wake up in the morning and your tooth hurts, right? You have this terrible ache on your tooth. What's the next step for most people?
Call the dentist.
Call the dentist, right? It ain't rocket science, is it? It is not rocket science. If I wake up, my tooth hurt, I'm struggling, call the dentist. We got to normalize waking up in the morning, feeling sad, feeling grief, feeling anger, feeling depressed, anxiety, call a professional. We got to normalize that in our community, right? It's obvious that whatever we've been doing, it ain't working. And we got to be open to some new stuff that's proven that has worked, and embrace it in our community. And I'll end it with that. Thank you.
Questions? Question, comment? So those of you interested in getting book, all the ambassadors get the book and the collaborative members. And so those of you that are interested, please head up to Kevin and there's a comment. Kevin, can I have the please line up and Kevin will sign what's for you. Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being here. There's a comment here. Right. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for this panel for today. I have been touched by everything I heard, and your book title reminded me of what I wanted to say when the panel was there, but I had some business going on around. My nephew, who's 36 years old, is currently in Allentown.